Welcome to Shattered Ties, where trust is broken, loyalties are tested, and hidden betrayals come to light. Here, we uncover the darkest sides of family, friendship, and love, stories of deception, greed, revenge, and the quiet pursuit of justice. So sit back, listen closely, and step into a world where every shattered bond leaves a scar. They told it was only money, and family needed mercy. But the money was her son's future, stolen to save the brother who had ruined everything. When the wedding began, walked in with the jail calls they thought no one would ever hear. The first warning came from a banking app at 6:14 on a Monday morning. I was packing Noah's lunch, because even at 17 he forgot food unless it was placed directly in his path, when my phone buzzed on the counter. I glanced at it expecting a pharmacy reminder or one of those useless security alerts that tried to scare you into changing a password you had already changed twice. Instead it said, transfer complete. Amount, $84,730. Recipient, E. Cole. For a few seconds, I stood in my kitchen holding a butter knife over a slice of bread and waited for my brain to turn the numbers into something less impossible. The account was Noah's college fund, not a college fund in the abstract, not one of those vague parental hopes people mention at birthdays. It was an actual account with actual deposits, built from 18 years of birthday checks, overtime shifts, tax refunds, and the life insurance money my husband left behind when a drunk driver took him from us 9 years earlier. It was the money Daniel and I had promised our son before Daniel died. The money I had protected from myself on every bad month when the water heater broke, when the car needed brakes, when my mother said I was being dramatic for refusing to help again. And now it was gone. Noah came into the kitchen wearing one shoe, hair still wet, backpack hanging open. "Mom, why is your face doing that?" I put the knife down very carefully. "Go start the car," I said. He frowned. "I'm not dressed. Just give me 2 minutes." The bank's fraud line put me on hold for 11 minutes. During those 11 minutes, the toast went cold, the dog whined at the back door, and my son stood in the hallway watching me with the kind of fear children develop when they realize adults are not walls. We are doors. We can be kicked open. When the representative came back, she sounded too polite. "Mrs. Cole, the transfer was authorized by a secondary account manager." "There is no secondary manager." "There is. Added 3 weeks ago with notarized documentation." My mouth went dry. Who? A pause, paperwork being opened, a keyboard clicking. Cole. My mother. The name did not hit like a surprise. It hit like a verdict I had been avoiding for years. Noah stepped closer. "Mom." I covered the phone. "It's okay." It was the first lie I told him that day. By 8 o'clock, I had learned 3 things. First, my mother had been added as an emergency custodian using a power of attorney I had never signed. Second, the full balance had been wired into an account attached to a bail bond company. Third, the bond was for my older brother, who had been arrested the previous Friday and had somehow neglected to mention it when he sent our family group chat a photo of wedding cufflinks. His wedding was in 12 days. My son's future had been drained to save my brother's reputation before the rehearsal dinner, and my mother had done it with my name. I had spent years treating the account like a sacred room. Every deposit had a story. Daniel's final insurance check, my first Christmas bonus after going back to work, Noah's birthday money from neighbors who still remembered his father fixing their porch railing. The balance was not wealth. It was testimony. It proved that even after death, even after panic, even after family pressure, one promise had survived. Seeing it emptied in a single transaction felt like watching someone erase Daniel's handwriting from the world. By noon, I had replayed every moment my mother had stood too close to my purse, every time she asked whether I still kept important things in the same drawer. Betrayal rewrites memory. It turns ordinary questions into reconnaissance. My mother answered on the 4th ring, not with hello, with a sigh. That was Cole's signature move. She could make your existence sound like an inconvenience before you said a word. "I'm getting my hair colored. You stole Noah's college fund." Silence. Not shock, not confusion, calculation. Then softly, "Don't start with language you can't take back." I stood in the bank parking lot with my car running and Noah's school ID still in the cup holder, because I had dropped him off 40 minutes late and watched him walk into the building like someone entering a fire. "Where is the money?" "Your brother needed help. My son needed college. College can be financed. Prison cannot be undone." There it was, the Cole family constitution, spoken in one sentence. Disasters were emergencies. Everyone else's needs were character building. had been the golden boy from the moment he learned how to smile at adults and lie to children. He broke windows and I got blamed for being nearby. He crashed my father's truck and my mother said boys made mistakes. He drained my grandmother's savings for a business opportunity that turned out to be a sports betting app, and the family called it a rough patch. When Daniel died, came to the funeral wearing sunglasses indoors, and asked me, beside the condolence table, whether Daniel had left me anything usable. My mother told me grief made people hear things too harshly. Now she had taken my son's money for him. What was he arrested for? I asked. A misunderstanding. What charge? What charge? She exhaled. Fraud, but it's not what it sounds like. Fraud, the word sat between us like a family heirloom. I almost laughed, but there was nothing funny left in me. You used forged paperwork to steal money from a minor's college account to bail out on a fraud charge. He is not a criminal. He is literally out on bail. He is your brother. And Noah is your grandson. Another silence. That was the first moment I understood the shape of the wound. My mother had not forgotten Noah. She had weighed him and found him lighter. She lowered her voice. Listen to me carefully. Cannot go into his wedding with this hanging over him. His family is very traditional. Her father is a judge. I looked through the windshield at the bank doors. People walked in and out carrying coffee, purses, paperwork, normal problems. You mean he needed my son's money so he could impress a judge? He needed family support. No, he needed a cover story. You have always been resentful. The old hook, she threw it automatically, expecting me to bite. Resentful, difficult, dramatic, unforgiving. Words used to turn truth into a personality flaw. But that morning, with my son's account empty and my mother's voice soft with practiced cruelty, something inside me did not bite. It went still. I'm reporting it, I said. You will do no such thing. Watch me. Her voice turned cold. If you ruin your brother's wedding, you will ruin this family. No, I said. You already did that. I'm just checking the receipts. My mother always sounded most reasonable when she was being cruel. She never yelled unless the room was already on her side. One-on-one, she preferred softness. Concern, the little sigh before a sentence that made you feel childish for objecting. That was how she had survived decades of choosing in public while calling it fairness in private. She wrapped favoritism in crisis until the rest of us stopped calling it favoritism at all. Had always understood that my mother's love came with a loophole written in his favor. He did not need to ask whether she would choose him. He only needed to create a crisis large enough for her to call choosing him maternal duty. I did not tell Noah at school. There are injuries children should not receive under fluorescent lights between algebra and lunch. I waited until evening. After he had finished homework, he pretended to understand and moved green beans around his plate like they were suspects in an interrogation. He knew something was wrong. Noah had Daniel's eyes, which meant he saw too much and gave people time to confess before making them. Is it Grandma? He asked. I set down my fork. Why would you say that? Because you get quiet in a different way when it's her. That broke me more than the transfer alert. I told him carefully. Not the full horror, not the bail bond, not the forged power of attorney yet. Just that money had been moved without permission, that I was working with the bank, that he was not responsible for any of it. He listened without interrupting. His face changed slowly, as if each sentence were being placed onto a shelf already too full. How much? He asked. All of it. His mouth opened, closed. He looked toward the living room, where Daniel's framed photo sat on the bookcase, smiling in his navy work shirt, unaware that 9 years after his death his son would learn that grief could be robbed too. Was it for Uncle? I should have lied. A softer mother might have. I had spent years trying to be both parents, and sometimes that meant choosing truth before comfort, because comfort built on lies collapses later and crushes everyone under it. Yes. Noah nodded once. Not surprised. That was the second wound. Grandma always says he needs help, he said. She says we're strong. I hated my mother then with a clarity that frightened me. Not because she stole money, though she had. Because she had taught my child that being strong meant being available for theft. No, I said. Strong does not mean you absorb damage so other people can stay comfortable. He looked at me. Can we get it back? Yes. I said it like a promise, and the weight of that promise settled into my bones. After he went upstairs, I opened the folder Daniel kept in the bottom desk drawer. College statements. Insurance documents. His handwritten note from the week after Noah was born. If anything happens to me, this is for the boy. School, trade, business, whatever makes him free. Whatever makes him free. My mother had used freedom money to unlock a jail cell for. The next morning I met with the bank manager, a woman named Singh, who looked at the forged power of attorney for less than 30 seconds before her expression changed. "This notary stamp is real," she said, "but the signature authorization is wrong." "How wrong?" "The date says you signed in our downtown branch." "I was at work." "That helps." She the documents and gave me the name of the notary. When I asked whether the money could be reversed, she gave the answer people give when systems have failed, but paperwork still needs to pretend systems are majestic. "We need an investigation." "How long?" 30 to 90 days. "My son starts college decisions in 6 months." Her eyes softened. "Then I suggest you also speak to an attorney." Outside the bank, I sat in my car and called the police. My hands shook while I did it. Not because I was afraid to report my mother, because some part of me still expected to be punished for telling the truth. After Noah went upstairs, I stood in the doorway of his room for a long time without entering. His desk was covered in ordinary teenage evidence: mechanical pencils, college brochures, a half-built model car Daniel would have known how to fix, a hoodie dropped where a chair should have been. Nothing about the room knew it had been robbed. That made it worse. Theft is loud in movies. In real life, it can happen while laundry dries and homework waits. I wanted to promise him this would never happen again. Instead, I promised the only thing I could control: that from this point forward, no adult in our family would get private access to his future just because they used the word love. The notary worked out of a shipping store, wedged between a laundromat and a vape shop. His name was Carl. He had a comb-over, nicotine fingers, and the nervous hospitality of a man who knew exactly how much trouble paperwork could become when it stopped staying quiet. The first time I asked about the power of attorney, he said he notarized hundreds of documents and could not possibly remember one. Then I showed him my driver's license. His eyes moved from the license to my face, then away. "You remember," I said. "I'm not supposed to discuss client documents." "Then discuss the woman who pretended to be me." He swallowed. I placed the copy on the counter. "This document says I came here 3 weeks ago. I did not. Someone brought identification, signed my name, and used your stamp. If you help me now, you are a witness. If you don't, you become a participant." It was a bluff, mostly. But I had learned from watching my mother that confidence could make weak people imagine consequences faster than threats. Carl looked toward the back office. There was an older woman, my mother, and a man, my brother. He shook his head. "No, younger than your mother but not young, suit, expensive watch." He did most of the talking. That did not fit. Who wore confidence like cologne, but considered ironing a shirt an act of class betrayal. What did he say? That the daughter was recovering from surgery. Couldn't come in. They had her ID though. My ID was in my wallet. He looked sick. They had a copy. Of course they did. My mother had insisted on keeping copies of important family documents after Daniel died. I was drowning then. She had offered help. I had handed her folders. Carl rubbed his forehead. The older woman cried. I froze, she cried. Said her grandson would lose everything if this wasn't done. Said her daughter was too unstable to make decisions. The man said it was urgent. There was the third word in the family arsenal: unstable. When truth came from me, it was resentment. When anger came from me, it was drama. When refusal came from me, it was instability. "Did you keep camera footage?" I asked. He hesitated. "Carl, 30 days. It has been 21. He looked toward the ceiling camera, as if it might testify against him first. "I can't just give it to you. Then preserve it, now, before it deletes." He nodded quickly. I left with his written statement that an older woman and unidentified man had appeared without me. Not enough to win. Enough to continue. On the sidewalk, my phone rang. I almost ignored it. Then I remembered that people like my brother often confessed in the tone of people bragging about surviving. I answered and put him on speaker. My other phone, an old backup Noah used for games, was already recording. He said, cheerful and breathless, "Heard you're making calls. Where is Noah's money?" He laughed softly. "You always go nuclear first." "Where is it?" "It's not gone. It's temporarily redirected. Into your bail." A pause. Then his voice lowered. "Careful. Mom helped because she knows what family means. You start dragging this into police stations, and I promise you, everyone will know you tried to send your own brother back to jail before his wedding. You stole from my son. You had savings, I had a crisis." He said it like that explained everything. And in our family, it always had. I also noticed how quickly fear made strangers more honest than family. Carl did not love me, he owed me nothing. Yet within 15 minutes, he had given me more truth than my mother had offered in 40 years. Family had become a fog machine, filling every room with excuses until outlines disappeared. Outside that fog, facts stood there plainly, almost embarrassed by how simple they were. When I left, Carl locked the door behind me and flipped the sign to closed even though it was barely noon. I watched through the glass as he stood under the camera and stared upward, finally understanding that machines can remember what people hope to forget. So was named Grant. I had met her twice. Once at Easter, when she complimented my potatoes and spent the rest of the meal staring at her phone. Once at my mother's birthday, when she wore white to a barbecue and asked whether Noah was community college bound because he seemed hands-on. Her father, Judge Franklin Grant, had the kind of reputation small towns polish until it becomes furniture. Strict, fair, old money without being too obvious about it. He had agreed to officiate the wedding himself because apparently irony had early. I found his number in a group text and called her from my parked car outside the shipping store. She answered with wedding noise in the background. Women laughing, tissue paper, someone saying champagne wall. She said carefully, "Is everything okay? Did tell you he was arrested Friday." Silence swallowed the champagne wall. What? Fraud charge. Bail posted with money taken from my son's college fund using forged documents. Another silence. Then, colder. This feels like something I should discuss with. You should. Because he told me you had issues with boundaries. I closed my eyes. There is a special exhaustion that comes from discovering the lie before hearing it. What else did he tell you? That you never liked him moving on. That you're angry he's happy. That you've always blamed him for things because your father favored him. My father died when I was 22. I'm not interested in old family drama. It's not old, it happened Monday. Her voice sharpened. Our wedding is in less than 2 weeks. If this is an attempt to create a scene, it's an attempt to recover stolen money from a minor. You don't have to come. That was the wrong sentence. Not because I wanted to go. I would rather have chewed glass than sit under flowers while pretended to be a husband. But the ease with which she dismissed me told me had already prepared the room. I was not a victim. I was a disruption. I said, ask him one question. Ask him why the bail company received $84,730 from an account in my name. She hung up. That evening, my mother called Noah. She did not call me, she called my child. I found him on the back porch, phone pressed to his ear, face pale in the porch light. No, he said quietly, I don't think Mom is lying. I took 3 steps. His shoulders tightened. Grandma, please don't cry. I held out my hand. He looked at me with apology in his eyes, as if he had done something wrong by being ambushed. I took the phone. Do not call my son again. My mother's crying stopped instantly. He deserves to understand that his uncle might go to prison if you keep this up. He deserves to understand his grandmother robbed him. You are poisoning him. No, I am ending the dosage. Her voice dropped. You think this makes you powerful? No, I said. I think documentation does. I hung up and blocked her number on Noah's phone. He stared at the yard. She said Dad would be disappointed in us, he whispered. That was when the anger stopped being cold. It became sacred. Noah did not cry that night. I almost wished he had. Tears would have given me something to hold, something visible to tend. Instead, he got quiet and polite, which frightened me more. Politeness was what my family had trained into wounded people, so we would not inconvenience the people who caused the wound. I promised myself I would rather raise an angry son than a convenient one. Disbelief also taught me something useful. Had not only stolen money, he had prepared character witnesses in advance. Every liar builds 2 crimes, the thing they do, and the story that makes you sound insane when you describe it. The next family meeting happened without my consent. My aunt called it a conversation, which in Cole language meant a tribunal where one person was expected to apologize for noticing what everyone else had done. She invited me to her house on Sunday afternoon. I refused. She said my mother was fragile. I refused harder. Then she said Noah should not have to watch adults fight. That was how they got me. I arrived alone, carrying a folder and a recorder in my coat pocket. My mother sat on's floral couch in a black dress, as if she had dressed for the funeral of my obedience, leaned against the fireplace, freshly shaved, wedding tan glowing, bail freedom sitting on him like expensive lotion. Aunt, Uncle Len, 2 cousins, and my mother's church friend completed the audience. Noah was not there. I had made sure of that. My mother began before I sat. We are here because is threatening this family. I placed the folder on the coffee table. I'm here because you stole $84,000. Flinched, language. Grand larceny sounds worse. I was being gentle. Laughed, see, this is why nobody tells you anything. I looked at him, you mean crimes. His smile thinned. My mother pressed a tissue under her eye. Your brother made mistakes. We all know that. But Daniel would never have wanted you to destroy family over money. Daniel's name in her mouth made the room go sharp. For years after he died, my mother used him as a leash. Daniel was patient. Daniel was forgiving. Daniel would help. Daniel would want peace. Daniel, apparently, had become more useful to her dead than he ever was alive. I opened the folder and removed his handwritten note about Noah's fund. Daniel wanted this money to make Noah free. My mother glanced at it, then away. That was before everything. Before what? Before needed help. There it was again. The altar, the sacrifice, the golden sun opening his mouth and everyone else climbing in. Pushed off the mantle. I'm going to pay it back. When? After the wedding. With what money? He looked offended. I have opportunities. You have charges. Gasped. My mother covered her face. Stepped closer. You want to humiliate me because you're bitter. That's all this is. No, I want my son's future back. He'll be fine. That sentence cracked something open in the room. Everyone had said versions of it for years. We'll be fine. Noah will be fine. Daniel's dead, but handles things. Needs saving, survives. They had mistaken my survival for consent. I stood. Noah is not your emergency fund. Daniel's death is not your line of credit. And I am not the family shock absorber anymore. My mother's face changed. The crying vanished. What remained was older and uglier. If you go to the police, she said, I will tell them Daniel asked me to watch that account. The room froze. She had said too much. I looked at. His eyes widened a fraction. You already planned that story, I said. My mother's mouth tightened. The recorder in my pocket warmed against my hip, like a small, patient heart. I smiled, not because I was happy, because she had finally started helping me. Aunt tried to serve tea during the argument. That was our family in miniature. Someone screaming, someone stealing, someone quietly setting out cups as if manners could domesticate violence. I watched her hands tremble around the saucers and understood she knew more than she would ever admit. Silence had made cowards of all of them, but some cowards wore aprons and called themselves peacemakers. Driving away from his house, I realized I no longer wanted them to understand me. Understanding had become another trap, another meeting, another tea tray. I wanted records, signatures, audio, timestamps. The cold language my family could not guilt into apologizing. The bail bond office smelled like burnt coffee and old panic. It sat behind a pawn shop on a street where every business sign promised fast relief from consequences. Cash loans, title advances, discount legal forms, 24-hour bonds. A plastic fern leaned near the door, dusty and defeated. The bondsman was named Holt. He wore a gold chain, a red polo, and the expression of a man who had seen enough family loyalty to price it accurately. I can't give you client records, he said before I finished introducing myself. You accepted money from an account belonging to my minor son. He leaned back. I accepted a wire from Cole. Using stolen funds. That sounds like a civil argument. I slid the bank transfer record across his desk. It becomes criminal when fraud is involved. He picked it up, scanned it, and sighed. People really do love making bail more complicated than jail. I need confirmation. You need a subpoena. I'll get one. Then I'll confirm it. I hated him for being right. As I stood to leave, he said, off the record. I paused. He tapped the paper. Your brother didn't look surprised when the wire came through. I turned back. He knew exactly how much was coming, said. Down to the dollar. Most people waiting on family money call every 10 minutes asking if it posted. He didn't. He just smiled when it did. Was my mother there? No. Who was? He hesitated. I waited. Some guy named. The unidentified man from the notary. Last name. Maybe Pike. Maybe Price. He did not strike me as someone who uses his real name unless forced. Did you hear what they discussed? Laughed once. Lady, this office hears everything, but it remembers only what paperwork requires. He handed back the transfer record, but his thumb lingered on the edge. Your brother said something, though, when he walked out. What? Looked at me as if deciding whether I deserved the extra injury. He said, "This kid won't even need college once I'm married into the grants." The room narrowed. I had spent a week imagining desperate, cornered, maybe even afraid. That sentence revealed something worse. He had not taken Noah's money because he had no other options. He had taken it because he believed his wedding would upgrade him beyond accountability. Judge Grant as a shield, as a ladder, my son as collateral. When I got home, Noah was at the kitchen table with scholarship tabs open on his laptop. Just in case, he said before I could ask. I walked to the sink because I could not let him see my face. That night, after he went to bed, I checked county jail records. His arrest file listed his booking number and the attorney of record. Pike, not a mystery man. His lawyer. A lawyer had helped my mother forge access to my son's account. And if there is one thing arrogant lawyers trust more than silence, it is the sound of their own voice. I began searching for jail call policies. By midnight, I knew 3 things. Calls from the county jail were recorded. Defendants were warned before each call. And with a victim claim connected to financial fraud, my attorney could request preserved audio. For the first time, I saw the path clearly. Not to revenge, to a room where their voices would have to explain themselves. On the drive home, I realized had probably never imagined Noah as a person inside this. To him, Noah was a number, a future that could be delayed, a loan application waiting to happen. That is how selfish people survive their own selfishness. They flatten everyone else into concepts. Nephew, sister, mom, family. Once someone becomes a role instead of a person, you can take almost anything from them and call it necessary. Did not become a hero that day. He remained what he was, a man protecting his office. But sometimes self-interest and truth stand in the same doorway. I had learned not to reject useful honesty simply because it came from an unclean source. Came to my office on Tuesday. I worked for a small medical supply company, managing inventory contracts and the quiet disasters of things that had to arrive before hospitals ran out. My office had no glamour, only gray carpet, 3 monitors, and a coffee mug Noah made in 8th grade that said Mom RUNS Logistics and Fear. My assistant poked her head in. There's a very polished woman here to see you. Entered wearing cream trousers, a silk blouse, and the expression of someone determined to make a confrontation look like charity. I won't take much of your time, she said. That's kind. She sat without being invited, told me everything. I doubt that. He told me you've always resented his relationship with your mother. He stole from my son. He told me your mother made a temporary loan. Did he tell you the documents were forged? Her jaw tightened. He told me you would say that. Of course he did. Liars do not merely lie, they vaccinate people against the truth. Placed a hand over her stomach, though she was not pregnant. It was a rehearsal gesture, borrowed from bridal magazines and future motherhood fantasies. I need this wedding to be peaceful. Then don't marry a man out on bail for fraud. Her eyes flashed. My father has reviewed the situation. That was a lie or a threat, maybe both. Has he reviewed the forged power of attorney? I asked. She stood. If you bring accusations to the wedding, security will remove you. I wasn't planning to attend. Relief crossed her face too quickly. So I added, unless I need an audience. Her hand gripped her purse. You are exactly what said. What's that? A woman who cannot stand when someone else gets chosen. The sentence should have hurt. Maybe it would have years ago, when my mother's favoritism still had enough power to make me compete for scraps, but was not speaking to me. She was speaking to the version of me, had sold her, because that version was easier to dismiss than a mother with bank records. I opened my drawer and pulled out a copy of the transfer. Take this. She did not move. Take it, I said. Show your father. Ask him if this is a family loan. She stared at the paper like it might stain her. Then she took it. At the door, she turned back. Her polish had cracked, just enough for fear to show through. If you ruin this, she said, you will regret it. No, I said. I regret trusting family with paperwork. I regret letting my son believe strength meant silence. I regret every year I let call consequences cruelty, but I will not regret telling the truth. After she left, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text appeared. Stop digging. Your kid can lose more than money. I read it twice. Then I forwarded it to Detective Allen, the officer assigned to my fraud report. His reply came back 10 minutes later. That changes things. Yes, I thought. It really did. The threatening text changed how I locked doors. I checked windows twice. I parked under lights. I made Noah text me when he arrived anywhere, which he tolerated with only moderate eye-rolling because he knew fear had entered the house and was refusing to take off its shoes. I hated for that too. Not just the money. The way his choices spread into our routines like mold. At my desk after she left, I wrote down every sentence she had said while it was fresh. I had started doing that with everyone, my mother, even relatives who only hinted. Documentation became my way of refusing to be gaslit by memory later. Detective looked like a man who trusted black coffee more than people. He met me in a municipal conference room with my attorney, sitting beside me. Was 48, silver-haired, and so calm she made everyone else in the room seem undercooked. From the bank had recommended her with the words, "She scares institutions politely." Placed a flash drive on the table. These are preserved jail calls involving Cole from the weekend after his arrest. My mouth went dry. Touched my sleeve once, a grounding gesture, permission to breathe. Some calls involve his attorney, said. Privileged, we can't use those, but several involve your mother, no privilege there. My mother knew they were recorded, I asked. Every call begins with an automated warning. Of course. My mother had heard the warning and still assumed rules were for people without family emergencies. Played the first call. A beep, a flat recorded voice explaining the call was from an inmate at County Detention Center. Then, irritated. Mom, did you get it done? My mother's voice came through thin and tense. Yes, but is going to notice. She won't notice before the wedding if you stop acting guilty. She checks that account. Then tell her the bank flagged something. Tell her Daniel wanted me helped. She gets stupid when you bring him up. The room went silent, except for the hum of the fluorescent lights. My hands curled in my lap. Said quietly, keep listening. My mother whispered, it's Noah's money. Laughed, Noah is 17. He can take loans. I can't marry from a holding cell. He's your nephew. And I'm your son. There it was. The sentence that had governed my entire life, finally spoken without decoration. My mother began to cry, not the performance cry, the real one, small and frightened. Says the paperwork is risky. Says everything is risky. That's why we pay him. With whose money? Our money after I marry in. His voice changed then, becoming smooth, almost tender. Mom, listen to me. When's father helps, I'll pay back enough to shut her up. Not all of it. Enough. She doesn't need everything. She never does. I thought of Noah at the kitchen table, searching scholarships just in case. She never does. Stop the recording. My mother's voice remained in the room after it ended, like smoke. Turn to me, there are more. How many? 8 usable calls, said. What do they prove? That your mother knowingly accessed the account without permission. That knew the source. That there was an effort to conceal it. And that someone named was involved. My brother's attorney nodded. We're looking at that carefully. Carefully, the word meant slowly, but for once slowly did not feel like nothing. Can I have copies? I asked. Answered, eventually, not for public use yet. Yet, the word opened a door. That night, my mother left a voicemail. Her voice sounded soft, ruined, almost old. I don't know what you think you're proving, but is all I have right now. I listened to it 3 times. Not because I her, because she had forgotten that Noah and I existed inside the word all. Hearing my mother's voice on a jail recording was different from hearing it on the phone. On the phone, I was still her daughter, trained to hear the hidden instructions under every pause. In that conference room, her voice became evidence. Flattened by speakers, stripped of performance, it belonged to the facts. For the first time, I heard Cole the way a stranger might hear her, and the stranger in me was horrified. Slid a legal pad toward me after the recording ended. Write what you feel, she said. Not for court, for you. I wrote one sentence. They knew he was a child. Then I underlined child until the paper tore. The wedding invitation arrived the next morning. It was absurdly heavy, cream with gold edges. Our names written in calligraphy so elegant it felt like an accusation. Cole and Noah Cole request the honor of your presence. As if we were honored. As if presence was not another way of asking us to bless our own erasure. Noah found it before I did. He held it up in the hallway. They invited me. I took the envelope from him. You don't have to go. Are you? No. He watched my face. That means maybe. Daniel used to say Noah inherited my honesty and his ability to make it inconvenient. I don't know yet. Noah leaned against the wall. He looked older than he had 2 weeks earlier. Betrayal ages children by introducing them to adult math. Who matters, who pays, who gets forgiven, who gets used. I want to go, he said. No. Moms. Noah. I don't want to sit home while everyone pretends I'm not the one they stole from. The sentence landed clean and hard. Part of me wanted to wrap him in every protective instinct I had left. Another part understood that protection could become another silence if I used it to hide him from his own truth. I won't let them hurt you. They already did. I looked away first. That afternoon called with an update. The bank had frozen's remaining accounts pending investigation. His bond source was now under review. Pike had stopped returning calls from investigators, which described as interesting in the tone doctors use when a scan shows something terrible. Then she said, "There's another issue." "What?" Wedding venue asked local police to provide off-duty security. "Your name is on a potential disturbance list." I laughed once. "A what?" "They're framing you as a threat." "Of course they are. Do not go without a plan." There it was. The moment stories make simple and life makes complicated. I had evidence. They had a wedding, a judge, security, a family trained to see me as the problem, and a room full of people who would hear whatever explanation arrived first. Truth does not win by existing. It wins by surviving delivery. So we planned. Not for a scene. For a record. Prepared certified packets for Judge Grant and could not authorize spectacle, but he could not prevent me from attending a family wedding with documents that belonged to my civil claim. Agreed to write a neutral account statement. Carl, terrified into usefulness, provided confirmation that preserved footage showed my mother and Pike at his store. And the jail calls. Said not all of them, not yet, but the call your mother made to you, the voicemail, the call made directly to you, those are yours. Mine. I still wanted the jail calls. The universe, or arrogance, provided them another way. 2 days before the wedding, called. Her voice was thin. I found something on his laptop. I sat down slowly. What? Audio files. My hand tightened around the phone. He saved calls from jail, she whispered. He said they were insurance against your mother. Of course he did. Golden boys always keep receipts on the people who worship them. Noah and I made rules before deciding about the wedding. We would leave if he asked. We would not answer questions alone. We would not let anyone separate us for a private conversation disguised as concern. Most importantly, we would not go to beg anyone to believe us. Belief was no longer the prize. The record was. That distinction made both of us stand a little. The invitation stayed on the counter for 2 days. Neither of us threw it away. It became a symbol, ugly in its elegance, of the way our family expected us to attend our own harm and compliment the decorations. Met me in the parking lot of a closed dentist's office, which felt appropriate because everything about the situation involved drilling into something wrought. She wore sunglasses though the sky was gray. Without the wedding polish, she looked younger, not softer exactly, but less certain of the script she had been given. She handed me a flash drive. I shouldn't be doing this. No, I said, you should have done it sooner. Her mouth tightened. I didn't know. You didn't want to. That struck. She looked down at the asphalt. My father doesn't know, she said. Not everything. Told him the arrest was a business dispute. And you believed him. I loved him. I could have been cruel. I had earned it. But love had made fools of better women than Grant. And shame was already doing enough work on her face. What's on the drive? Calls, voice memos, text screenshots. He kept recordings of your mother admitting she signed your name. He also recorded explaining how to make it look like an emergency custodial transfer. The cold returned, clean and precise. Why would he save that? Because he was going to use it, if your mother asked for the money back. There was something almost elegant about the ugliness. My mother stole for, kept evidence to betray her. The family system consuming itself in high definition. Removed her sunglasses. Her eyes were red. The wedding is still happening, she said. I stared at her. You're marrying him. No. Then why? Because if I cancel today, he controls the story. He tells everyone I had a breakdown, that you poisoned me, that my father pressured me. He has already started. For the first time, I saw the steel beneath her silk. What are you planning? I asked. I'm walking down the aisle. I'm walking down the aisle, taking the microphone, and ending it in front of every person he invited to witness his upgrade. It was not the plan I would have chosen. It was dramatic, dangerous, and emotionally ruinous. It was also hers. I understood the importance of that. Why give me the drive? Because I don't trust myself not to soften if he cries. At least she knew the shape of her weakness. I took the drive. What do you want from me? Bring your records. Bring your son if he wants to come. When I speak, I want the truth ready behind me. And your father. Her face changed. He thinks he raised a daughter who would rather be embarrassed than deceived. Did he? She looked at the wedding venue visible far down the road. All white columns and manicured trees. We'll find out. That night, Noah and I listened to the audio in our living room. Not all of it, enough. My mother will break. She always breaks quietly. Then keep pressing Daniel's name. Works every time. You people understand this is forgery if anyone fights it. She won't fight, she has a kid. Fear makes her practical. Noah sat beside me, his face unreadable. When it ended, he said, I'm going to the wedding. This time, I did not say no. I said, then we go as witnesses, not weapons. He nodded, but his eyes were Daniel's when he said, sometimes witnesses are what weapons are scared of. His flash drive sat on my palm with almost comical smallness. So much harm in a thing smaller than a house key. I wondered how many families had collapsed because someone saved the wrong file, recorded the wrong brag, kept the wrong insurance against another liar. Secrets feel powerful until they become portable. Then they are just evidence waiting for a hand brave enough to carry them. Before drove away, she said, I kept thinking love meant giving him the benefit of the doubt. I told her doubt is not a savings account. You cannot keep withdrawing from it after the balance is gone. The rehearsal dinner was not part of the plan. We were not supposed to attend. Then my mother sent a message to Noah from a new number. If you still love this family, come hear the truth before your mother ruins everything. I wanted to throw the phone across the room, wanted to document it. Noah wanted to go. No, I said. She's going to keep saying things about me. I can stop that without putting you in front of her. He shook his head. I want to see who believes her. That sentence hurt, because it was exactly the kind of knowledge I had tried to keep from him, and exactly the kind he now needed. So we went. The restaurant had private rooms, white tablecloths, and waiters trained to pretend family tension was not leaking under the doors. Stood near the bar laughing with Judge Grant. He looked handsome in a navy suit, the kind of handsome that made strangers assume virtue. Saw us enter and went still. My mother moved first. She crossed the room with arms open, aiming not for me but Noah. Noah, sweetheart. He stepped back. Her face flickered, not with remorse, with public embarrassment. Said loudly, glad you decided not to make this ugly. I smiled, it's early. Conversations died around us. Judge Grant approached, silver-haired and formal. Mrs. Cole, I understand there have been family tensions. Financial crimes, I said, but tensions is prettier. His eyes sharpened. Laughed, this is exactly what I warned you about. My mother touched the judge's sleeve. She's been unstable since Daniel died. There it was, served before appetizers. Noah spoke before I could. My dad's name isn't seasoning. Stop sprinkling it on your lies. The room froze. I had never been more proud or more devastated. My mother's mouth opened, stepped forward face hard. Watch your tone. Noah looked at him. Watch your bail. Someone made a sound that might have been a laugh if fear had not strangled it. Judge Grant turned to bail. His charm snapped on. Franklin, this is not the place. No, the judge said. It appears this is precisely the place people have chosen. Walked to her father and handed him the transfer record I had given her days earlier. He read it. Then the notary's statement. Then the bank's letter. His face did not change much, but the room changed around it. My mother whispered, don't. Looked at her. You brought a child's stolen money to my wedding and expected me to call it family. Grabbed her wrist. Not hard enough to bruise, hard enough to reveal himself. Judge Grant saw it. So did everyone else. Take your hand off my daughter, he said. Released her slowly, smiling like he had decided to forgive the room. This is all emotional manipulation, he said. Has always been jealous. Noah is a kid repeating what she fed him, is overwhelmed. Then his phone rang. The ringtone was my mother S. His face went pale. Not because it rang. Because his screen lit up on the table, where everyone could see the contact name he had saved for her. Mom ATM. The room finally understood the genre. When Noah spoke at the rehearsal dinner, something in the family shifted permanently. They had expected my anger, prepared for it, rehearsed dismissing it. They had not prepared for the stolen child to describe the theft in his own voice. That is the danger of using children as symbols. One day they become people, and people can testify. On the drive home, Noah was quiet for 20 minutes. Then he said, I liked saying that. I knew which sentence he meant. Not the bail joke. The one about Daniel's name. Sometimes dignity begins as a teenager refusing to let adults misuse the dead. Did not cancel that night. Her father tried to make her. I heard his voice through the restaurant hallway, low and furious. Answer was quieter but firm. I will not let him turn my absence into his victim story. I understood even when I hated it. The next morning, the church looked like money repenting in public. White roses, gold ribbons, programs printed on thick paper. A string quartet near the altar playing something delicate enough to make lies feel expensive. Noah wore Daniel's old tie. I almost asked him to change because seeing it hurt. Then I realized he had chosen armor, not costume. "Ready?" I asked. "No," he said, going anyway. We sat near the back, sat beside me with a folder on her lap. Detective was not inside. He had no reason to be. But two uniformed officers stood outside. After Judge Grant made one quiet phone call, my mother sat in the front row wearing lavender and martyrdom. Stood at the altar smiling at everyone, including us. His smile said he still believed charm could outrun audio. Walked down the aisle in a plain ivory dress, no veil. The absence of lace made her look less like a bride and more like a witness. When she reached the altar, leaned toward her. She did not take his hands. The minister began. "Dearly beloved," turned to him. "I'm sorry, I need the microphone." A ripple moved through the pews. Whispered, "What are you doing?" She looked at him with an expression I had seen in women after the love leaves, but before the anger fully arrives. "Something I should have done when called." The minister, panicked, handed her the microphone. "Face the guests. Thank you for coming. I invited you here to witness a marriage. Instead, I'm asking you to witness the truth." Laughed loudly. "She's joking." "No," said, "I'm done making your lies more comfortable." My mother stood. "Sweetheart, sit down." It was the first time I had ever seen my mother obey a younger woman. Lifted a remote. A screen behind the altar, meant for childhood photos and romantic slides, lit up. The first image was not as a boy. It was a bank transfer. Noah's name. The amount. The date. Guests murmured. Spoke clearly. 12 days ago, Mai was out on bail for fraud. His bond was paid with money stolen from his nephew's college fund. Moved toward her. Judge Grant stood. Stopped. Continued. His mother, Cole, used forged documents to access the account. His attorney advised them. Knew where the money came from. My mother began crying. This time, nobody moved to comfort her. Looked toward us. And Noah Cole are not here to ruin a wedding. They are here because this wedding was used as a reason to steal from them. She pressed play. His voice filled the church. Noah is 17. He can take loans. I can't marry from a holding cell. The string quartet stared at their sheet music like hostages. Then my mother's voice. It's Noah's money. And again. And I'm your son. The room did not explode. It emptied of excuses. I remember looking at the wedding flowers while the transfer record glowed on the screen. They were beautiful, extravagant, useless. Thousands of dollars in white roses surrounding a man who had stolen tuition money from a teenager and called it survival. Beauty, I learned, can be a curtain. The truth does not become less ugly because someone paid a florist to stand in front of it. My mother's face during the call was something I will never forget. Not shame, not yet. It was disbelief that private priorities could become public sound. She had spent a lifetime mistaking secrecy for morality. The speakers corrected her. When the audio stopped, the silence in the church felt physical. It had weight, temperature, teeth. Recovered first because men like him experience shame as something other people should apologize for causing. That was private, he snapped. Looked at him. It was recorded from jail. My privacy was violated. Noah laughed. Not loudly, not cruelly. Just one small sound of disbelief that cut through the room better than any speech could have. Turned on him. You think this is funny? No, Noah said. I think you're confused about who got violated. My mother stood again, tissue crushed in her hand. Enough, he made a mistake. I rose slowly. Every head turned. For years, my family had trained rooms to expect me to either swallow pain or overreact to it. Calm from me made them nervous. You stole from your grandson, I said. My mother's chin trembled. I saved my son. The words came out before she could dress them. There it was, not hidden in a phone call, not implied through behavior. Spoken in a church, under flowers, in front of God and Judge Grant and my 17-year-old son. I saw the moment she heard herself. She looked at Noah. Too late. He had heard her too. I wanted to cover his ears retroactively. I wanted to drag the words back into her mouth and replace them with something human. But truth, once freed, does not go back into its cage because it hurts the innocent. Noah stood beside me. I hope he was worth it, he said. My mother made a sound like breaking glass. Pointed at me. This is on you. You poisoned him. No, said rising. You defrauded him. Her voice was not loud, but it carried the authority of someone who had never mistaken volume for power. She walked forward with the folder. Certified copies of the bank statement, forged power of attorney, notary preservation notice, and relevant recordings have been provided to Judge Grant and will be provided to investigators. Any further contact with or Noah Cole outside counsel will be documented as harassment. Removed her ring and placed it on the altar rail. A simple gesture, more devastating than throwing it. "I will not marry you," she said. Stared at the ring as if it had betrayed him personally. Then the side doors opened. Detective entered with the two officers. Apparently, Judge Grant's quiet phone call had been even quieter than I thought. Did not arrest at the altar. Life is rarely that theatrical. He asked to step outside for questioning related to bond fraud and witness intimidation. Refused. Then he argued. Then he realized every word was being recorded by half the phones in the church. My mother reached for him. "Don't say anything," she whispered. Looked at her with pure hatred. "Like you didn't already," he said. That was the final cruelty. After everything she had sacrificed for him, he blamed her for bleeding where he had cut. Noah looked away. So did I. Not to protect, to deny him the dignity of being watched as tragedy. My mother's sentence repeated in me for days. I saved my son. It was not that she had forgotten I was her daughter. It was worse. She remembered and still sorted us. Was the son to save? I was the daughter who could survive the cost. Noah was the grandson who could be reimbursed with apologies later. Her love had a budget, and we had finally seen the ledger. Later, people would ask whether I felt bad for. I did. But I also felt grateful to her. She could have left quietly and saved herself some embarrassment. Instead, she used the stage prepared for a lie and gave it to the truth. After the wedding, that wasn't. The story moved faster than the legal system. Videos leaked. Not from me. Not from wedding guests had filmed everything from 6 angles, because modern humiliation comes with backup footage. By Monday morning, his voice had become a local scandal. By Tuesday, Judge Grant requested recusal from anything connected to the case, which was both ethical and apparently devastating to his fantasy of being rescued by proximity. My mother called 19 times from unknown numbers. I answered none. Noah watched none of the videos online. I know because he handed me his phone and asked me to set app limits for a week. "I don't want strangers turning my life into comments," he said. That was the most adult sentence anyone in my family had spoken all month. The charges began stacking. Forgery, identity theft, financial exploitation of a minor, conspiracy. Witness intimidation after the text threat was traced to a prepaid phone purchased by Pike, the attorney with the expensive watch and cheap morals, was suspended pending investigation after Carl's security footage placed him at the notary store and files revealed his advice. My mother was charged too. That hit differently than I expected. I had imagined satisfaction. Instead, I felt the grief of a door closing in a house I had already left. She was still my mother. That did not make her innocent. It made the damage older. At her arraignment, she would not look at me. "Did?" He mouthed one word across the courtroom. "Bitch." Noah saw it. Before I could react, he leaned close and whispered, "That's the first honest thing he said. He finally knows you're not useful." I looked at my son, startled. He shrugged. Therapy tick. We both almost laughed, which felt wrong and necessary. The bank provisionally restored part of the funds while the investigation continued. Not all. Not quickly. But enough to stop Noah from spending every night recalculating tuition options like his life had become a math problem inflicted by relatives. Sent a note. Not an apology big enough to solve anything. Just honest. "I should have believed you faster. I am sorry. I am helping investigators. I hope Noah gets everything back." Noah read it and nodded. "Good," he said. "Do you want to reply?" No, her guilt doesn't need homework from me. He was becoming someone through this. And I hated that Betrayal had become one of his teachers. Filed civil claims. Gathered statements. Kept sending updates. Carl gave sworn testimony and quit notarizing documents for family emergencies. My mother's church friend sent a card that said she was praying for healing. I threw it away. Healing had become another word people used when they wanted consequences to hurry up and become quiet. We were not quiet anymore. The local attention faded after a week, as all public hunger eventually does. People moved on to a school board fight, a restaurant fire, a coach scandal. I was grateful and resentful at once. Our lives had been cracked open, examined, judged, and then abandoned by strangers who would never know the cleanup. That is what viral justice often misses. After the clip ends, someone still has to wash the dishes. Noah's teachers were kinder than he wanted. Extensions appeared. Counselors called. He accepted some help and rejected some with suspicion. Watching him decide what support felt safe became another reminder. Trust, once damaged, returns by invitation, not demand. My mother asked to see me 6 weeks after the wedding. Advised against it. My therapist advised boundaries. Noah said, "Do what helps you sleep, not what helps her perform." I met at a public park near the courthouse because I no longer trusted houses with her. She looked smaller. That was the first manipulation my heart tried to offer me. Look, she is diminished. Be kind. But harm does not become smaller just because the person who caused it appears fragile. She sat on a bench with her hands folded over a purse I recognized from happier years. "You look tired." "So do you." "I haven't been sleeping." I waited. She took a breath. "I made mistakes." "Mistakes," another soft blanket thrown over a body. "You committed crimes." Her mouth tightened. "Your attorney taught you to talk like that." "No, you did." She looked toward the playground, where a father pushed a toddler on a swing. I was terrified for. I know. He would not have survived jail. He was in county lockup for 2 days. You don't understand what it feels like to think your child could be destroyed. I laughed then. I did not mean to, but the sound escaped before Mercy could censor it. My mother flinched. "You stole from my child," I said. Then called him to make him feel guilty for being stolen from. Do not explain maternal fear to me like I'm visiting the subject. Her eyes filled. "I loved you too." The two did more damage than she knew. "But not enough to choose me when needed something," I said. She looked down. There are silences that deny, silences that confess, and silences that simply have no defense left. This was the third kind. "I need you to talk to the prosecutor," she said finally. "Of course. There is always a bill at the end of an whole apology." "About what?" "Leniency, restitution. I can repay some. Maybe not all immediately, but..." "Did you come here to apologize or negotiate?" Her tears fell. "I am your mother. And Noah is my son." She closed her eyes. I stood. "I hope you tell the truth. Not because it saves you. Because it might be the first thing you give us without taking something back." She reached for my hand. I stepped away. Her face collapsed. And for 1 second I saw not the manipulator, not the thief, not the woman who had weaponized grief, but a mother who had spent her life feeding one child with pieces of another, and could not understand why both were starving. It almost broke me. Almost. On the drive home, I cried hard enough to pull over. When I walked in, Noah was making boxed mac and cheese. He saw my face and silently added another handful of shredded cheddar, because in our house love had become practical. "How'd it go?" he asked. "She wanted me to save her." "What did you say?" "No." He nodded. Then he put the bowl in front of me. "Good," he said. "Eat before you start feeling guilty." Daniel would have loved him for that. I loved him enough for both of us. There was a time when my mother's tears could pull me across any room. I had organized my whole nervous system around preventing them. In the park, I watched them fall and felt my body wait for the old command. Fix it, soften, surrender. The command came. Then it passed. That was how I knew therapy was working before I had words for it. When I told my therapist about the meeting, she asked what I wished my mother had said. The answer came too quickly. I chose wrong. Not because it fixed anything. Because it would have named the wound without asking me to bandage her hand. Discovered the internet from the wrong side. 2 months after the non-wedding, he posted a video statement from a borrowed apartment with beige walls and poor lighting. He wore a button-down shirt, no tie, sleeves rolled like a man preparing to be honest. He called it My Side. For 12 minutes, he explained that addiction had affected his judgment, that family pressure had created financial confusion, that had always resented his happiness, that had been manipulated by outside influences, and that Noah was a bright kid who unfortunately got pulled into adult conflict. He never said stolen. He never said forged. He never said college fund. He said healing 9 times. By then, I knew enough not to respond emotionally. Filed the video as potential defamation and evidence of lack of remorse. Responded with 1 sentence online. He is still lying. Judge Grant said nothing publicly, which somehow sounded louder. Noah watched the video once. "Can I make a response?" he asked. "No." He groaned. "I knew you'd say that. You can write one and not post it." That is the most mom sentence ever spoken. He wrote it anyway. Not for the internet, for himself. 3 pages of rage, grief, facts, jokes, and 1 sentence that stayed with me. "I'm tired of adults calling me mature when they mean convenient." I asked if I could keep a copy. He said yes. The criminal case moved toward plea negotiations. My mother's attorney tried to separate her from, Saturni tried to blame. Saturni tried to become invisible. Everyone pointed outward, a circle of knives claiming they had simply been handed sharp objects by someone else. Then the full jail call set became usable, after waived part of his own protection, by publicly discussing the matter in detail. Called it an own goal. Noah called it idiot DLC. The final call was the worst. It was not the one where mocked Noah. Not the one where my mother admitted signing my name. The worst one came after, confronted privately, called my mother from jail and said, "If gets loud, we say Daniel left gambling debt. We say the fund was never clean." My mother whispered, "Don't you dare. What, he's dead, he can't deny it." I stopped the recording. For 9 years, Daniel had been gone. Not absent in the romantic way people talk about grief, but gone from dishes, bills, parent-teacher meetings, dentist forms, Sunday pancakes, father-son arguments, college tour. Gone. And still wanted to use his silence as a hiding place. Noah stood up and left the room. I found him in the garage 10 minutes later, holding Daniel's old toolbox. "He wanted to lie about Dad too," he said. "Yes." His jaw shook. "Is there anything they wouldn't use?" I thought about my mother crying in a park, smiling at an altar, Daniel's name passed around like currency, Noah's future wired to a bail office. "No," I said. "That's why we stopped giving them access." Daniel had not been perfect. No dead person is, no matter how grief tries to polish them, but he had been honest in the places that mattered. He would have worked 2 jobs before touching Noah's fund. He would have sold his truck, his tools, his pride. That was the difference between need and entitlement. Need asks what it can give up. Entitlement asks who else can pay. That was when I stopped thinking of as reckless. Reckless people fail to see the cliff. Saw it clearly, he just believed other bodies should land first. There is a difference between chaos and entitlement. My brother was not chaos. The plea hearing took place on a rainy Thursday. Courtrooms are smaller than people imagine. Television teaches us to expect grandeur, polished wood, and speeches. Real courtrooms smell like wet coats, toner, and people trying not to panic. My mother pled guilty to identity theft, forgery, and financial exploitation. Pled guilty to conspiracy, fraud, witness intimidation, and violating conditions of release. Pike took his chances longer than the rest, then folded when the bar complaint became a criminal referral. The judge was not Franklin Grant. Thank God. She was a woman named Keene who read every document like she expected lies to be hiding in the margins. Before sentencing, victims were allowed to speak. I had written a statement. It was measured, legally safe, all the things recommended. Then Noah asked to speak first. I nearly said no. Then I remembered what he had told me weeks earlier. I don't want to be hidden from my own truth. He walked to the front in Daniel's tie. My mother started crying before he opened his mouth. He did not look at her. "My name is Noah Cole," he said. "The money they stole was for college, but that's not the only thing they took. They took the version of my family I thought might still be real if I ignored enough things." My throat closed. He continued. "My grandmother called me and told me my uncle might go to jail because of my mom. She made me feel like wanting my own future back was selfish. My uncle said I could take loans because he couldn't get married from jail. I want the court to understand that they didn't make one bad decision. They made a decision about what I was worth." My mother sobbed. Noah finally looked at her. "And I disagree." That was all. He came back to sit beside me, and I could not touch him immediately because if I did, I would fall apart. Then I gave my statement. I spoke about Daniel, about the fund, about family systems that reward the loudest emergency, about how my mother had not simply broken trust, she had taught my child that love could arrive with an invoice. Stared at the table. My mother stared at her hands. Judge Keene listened. In the end, my mother received probation, restitution, community service, and a suspended sentence contingent on cooperation and repayment. I hated that and understood it. Received prison time, not enough for Noah's lost sleep, enough for the state. Pike lost his license before he lost his freedom, which seemed to wound him more. Restitution orders were entered. The bank's insurance made Noah's account whole faster than the court could. Civil claims continued. After the hearing, my mother tried to approach us. Noah stepped behind me. Not hiding. Choosing. I looked at her and shook my head. For once, she stopped. Outside, rain turned the courthouse steps slick and gray. Noah loosened Daniel's tie. "Was that justice?" he asked. I looked at the building behind us. "No," I said. "That was paperwork catching up." He nodded. "Then what's justice?" I opened the umbrella over both of us. You still getting to become yourself. Judge Keene did not give us a speech about closure. I appreciated that. Closure is a word people use when they want grief to become tidy. The judge gave orders, dates, payments, restrictions. It was not emotionally satisfying, but it was real. Sometimes justice is not a feeling. Sometimes it is a document with signatures nobody can ignore. Reporters waited outside, but by then the story was no longer theirs to animate. Noah and I walked past without stopping. Some truths deserve public record. That does not mean every microphone deserves your breath. Noah's first acceptance letter arrived in January. Not his dream school, not the cheapest, not the most practical. Just the first envelope that said yes after a year where family had said no in every language available. He opened it at the kitchen table, pretending not to care. Then he read the first line and sat down hard. I knew before he spoke. Mom, he said. I hugged him so tightly, he complained about ribs. The restored college fund sat in a new account by then, one my mother could not touch, one requiring two-factor authentication, legal locks, and my own newly discovered suspicion of anything labeled family paperwork. The bank added a settlement. Restitution would come slowly, probably in ugly little installments, but the account was whole. That mattered. But the money was not the only restoration. Noah applied to schools he wanted, not just schools fear selected. He wrote an essay about inherited silence and practical love, then rewrote it because, in his words, admissions officers don't need my full villain origin story. He started therapy. So did I. We both learned that surviving a family does not mean you have to remain available to it. Became a strange, distant ally. She moved out of state for a while, then sent Noah a graduation gift, a leather notebook and a card that said, "Make records. They matter." He liked that. My mother wrote letters every month. I read some, not all. She had begun slowly to use words like stole, forged, harmed, progress perhaps, or training. I no longer tried to judge her interior life like a courtroom. I only watched behavior. Wrote once from prison, 3 pages about betrayal. His. I mailed it to and asked whether we needed it for anything. She replied, only as proof he remains himself. On graduation day, Noah wore Daniel's tie again. When his name was called, he walked across the stage with that careful half-smile teenagers wear when they are trying not to look proud of themselves. I cheered too loudly. He pretended to be embarrassed and failed. Afterward, we took photos by the football field, just us, a few friends, no Cole family elders, no crying in lavender. At home, Noah placed his diploma beside Daniel's photo. He would have been obnoxious today, he said. Deeply. Probably crying. Definitely. Noah touched the frame once. Then he looked at me. You got it back. The money. He shook his head. My future. I could not speak for a while. That night, after he went to bed, I opened the old folder with Daniel's note. Whatever makes him free. I had thought freedom meant tuition paid, debt avoided, doors opened. It did mean those things. But that year taught me another definition. Freedom was the moment my son understood. He did not owe his life to people who called theft love. Daniel had left him money. I had given him the receipt. The acceptance letter changed the sound of our house. Not completely, not magically, but enough. Noah played music while making breakfast again. He left brochures on the couch without flinching at the price tags. I caught him laughing on the phone with a friend about dorm furniture. Ordinary teenage hope returned in fragments, and every fragment felt like restitution no court could calculate. The college later offered a small scholarship, and Noah acted casual for exactly 6 seconds before doing a victory lap around the kitchen. I watched him run and thought, this is what they almost stole too, not money but unguarded joy. The last time I saw before Noah left for college, he was behind glass. It was not a sentimental visit. Needed me to sign final restitution paperwork tied to a prison account release and requested 5 minutes. I almost refused. Then curiosity, that terrible little survivor, followed me into the visitation room. He looked older but not humbled. Humility requires an inward door, and had spent his life installing mirrors. You happy? He asked through the phone. No. That seemed to disappoint him. You got everything you wanted. I got back what you stole. He leaned closer. Mom's alone now. There it was, the old family bell, rung from behind glass. No, I said, she has herself, that's who she kept choosing. His eyes hardened. You always thought you were better than us. I looked at him for a long moment. No, I thought if I loved you correctly, you might stop using me. For once, he had no quick answer. I hung up before he found one. Noah left for college 3 weeks later. We packed too much. Mothers always do. Sheets, towels, medicine, snacks, a sewing kit he insisted was aggressively optimistic, and the framed photo of Daniel he pretended not to want until I placed it in the box labeled desk. At the dorm, he hugged me quickly, then again for real. "You okay?" he asked. "No." He smiled, going anyway. Going anyway. The drive home was brutal in the ordinary way of motherhood. The passenger seat empty, the radio too loud, every mile making his childhood both farther and more complete. When I got home, there was a voicemail from my mother. I almost deleted it. Then I listened. She said, "I know today is Noah's move-in. I hope he is safe. I hope he is happy. I know I don't have the right to ask for updates. I just wanted to say I am glad he got there. That money was his. I stole it. I am sorry." No request followed. No plea, no but, no family needs to heal. Just the words. I saved the voicemail. Not because it fixed anything. Because records matter, even when they arrive late. That evening, I sat on the porch with Daniel's old hoodie around my shoulders and watched the streetlights come on. For the first time in months, no crisis waited in my phone. No group chat demanded peace. No relative asked me to confuse sacrifice with love. Family, I had learned, is not the people who panic when you stop bleeding for them. Family is the person who searches scholarships at the kitchen table and still gets up the next morning. The friend who recommends a lawyer who scares institutions politely. The bride who finally chooses truth over image. The dead husband whose note survives long enough to remind you what freedom was supposed to mean. And sometimes family is the woman you become when you stop handing matches to people who keep calling the fire warmth. Noah texted at 9:42. "Roommate seems normal. Cafeteria pizza is criminal. I'm okay." I held the phone to my chest. Then I typed back, "Good, be free." For once, nobody could steal that. I do not tell this story because I think every family wound needs a courtroom or a church full of witnesses. I tell it because silence is often presented as maturity by the very people who benefit from it. There are times to walk away quietly. There are also times to gather the records, stand beside your child, and let the truth become too documented to deny. I have not forgiven, I may never. I am learning that forgiveness is not the rent we owe for being allowed to move on. Some doors can stay closed without becoming prisons. Mine did.